The billionaire's daughter was drowning in mud and nobody would help her. Cars slowed down, looked, then drove away. Too much liability. Too much trouble. Then 17-year-old Jamal Washington heard her crying. Emma Davidson was trapped chest-deep in thick mud, her wheelchair sinking fast. Rain is pouring down, water rising around her. "I can't move," she sobbed. "Please help me." Jamal saw a scared 12-year-old girl. He didn't see the Davidson Industries logo on her medical bracelet. Didn't know her father owned half the city. Didn't know she'd escaped from kidnappers who were hunting her. He just saw someone who needed help. So he jumped in. What happened next would destroy a criminal empire, save thousands of children, and transform a poor grocery store worker into one of the most powerful advocates for child safety in America. But first, he had to survive what came after the rescue. But every hero's story starts long before the moment that changes everything. 3 months earlier, Jamal Washington's alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m. in the cramped studio apartment he shared with his grandmother. The same routine every day. Get up, get dressed, get to work. "Morning, Nana Ruth," he whispered, careful not to wake her as she slept in the single bedroom. At 69, she deserved better than sharing a pull-out couch with her teenage grandson. Jamal laced up his work boots, the same pair he'd been wearing for 2 years, held together with duct tape and determination. The sole had worn through on the left one, but new boots cost money they didn't have. The walk to Miller's Diner took 45 minutes. Jamal didn't mind. Walking saved $1.75 in bus fare, and every dollar mattered when you were counting change for groceries. At the diner, Jamal scrubbed dishes until 7 a.m., earning $8 an hour under the table. No benefits, no sick days, just enough to keep the lights on and food in the fridge. "You're a good boy, Jamal," Mrs. Miller would say, pressing an extra $5 bill into his hand when business was good. "Your grandmother raised you right." After the diner, Jamal rushed to school. He maintained a 4.0 GPA despite falling asleep in chemistry class most mornings. His teachers knew he worked, but they didn't know about the coffee can hidden under his mattress labeled College Fund. Inside that can, $847, 3 years of saving every spare dollar, community college tuition, $2,800. The math was simple. The reality was heartbreaking. During lunch, while other kids complained about their parents or planned weekend parties, Jamal watched mechanical engineering videos on his cracked phone. The screen had been shattered for 8 months, but replacement phones weren't in the budget. "Yo, Jamal," his friend Marcus called out one day. "Why are you always watching those boring videos? Come hang out." "Just studying," Jamal replied, not looking up from a tutorial about hydraulic systems. "Gonna be an engineer someday," Marcus laughed. "Bro, people like us don't become engineers. We stock shelves and fix cars." But Jamal believed differently. He had to. After school, he walked another 30 minutes to Rodriguez Auto Shop, where he worked until 7 p.m. Mr. Rodriguez paid him $10 an hour to organize parts, change oil, and clean the garage. Sometimes, when business was slow, Rodriguez taught him about transmissions and brake systems. "You got good hands, kid," Rodriguez would say. "Natural mechanic, but you're smart enough for more than this." Jamal absorbed everything, every lesson, every technique, every piece of knowledge that might help him build something better. The walk home took another 45 minutes. By the time he reached the apartment, Nana Ruth would have dinner waiting, usually rice and beans, sometimes with a piece of chicken if her arthritis medication hadn't eaten too much of their grocery budget. "How was your day, baby?" She'd ask the same question every evening. "Good, Nana, real good," he'd answer, the same response every time. After dinner, Jamal studied at the kitchen table under the flickering fluorescent light. Advanced algebra, chemistry, physics, subjects that would matter when he finally made it to college. If he made it to college. The doubt crept in during quiet moments. When the electricity bill arrived and they had to choose between paying it and buying Nana Ruth's medication. When his work boots finally fell apart completely and he had to wrap them in grocery bags to keep his feet dry. When other kids talked about their college acceptance letters while Jamal calculated whether skipping meals would help him save faster. But doubt never lasted long in the Washington household. "Your grandfather didn't survive Vietnam, so you could give up on your dreams," Nana Ruth would remind him when she caught him staring at the college fund with frustration. That man believed in something bigger than himself, just like you do. Jamal's grandfather had died when he was 10, but his presence still filled the apartment. His military dog tags hung from Jamal's bedroom mirror, engraved with the words, "Courage under fire." His Purple Heart sat on the kitchen counter next to the sugar bowl. Courage under fire. Jamal would whisper to himself during the hardest moments. When customers at the diner were rude, when classmates made jokes about his clothes, when the math on his college fund didn't add up no matter how many times he recalculated. 3 weeks before the incident at the creek, Jamal found a wallet in the diner parking lot. Inside, $400 cash and a business card for a downtown law firm. $400, enough to buy new work boots, fix Nana Ruth's heating, and still have money left for groceries. Jamal traced down the owner through the business card and returned the wallet untouched. "Son, please take a reward," the lawyer insisted, trying to press $50 into Jamal's hand. "No, sir," Jamal replied politely. "I didn't return it for money. I returned it because it was right." That night, Nana Ruth looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Your grandfather would be so proud," she said. "Character isn't something you can buy. Either you have it or you don't. Jamal had it. And 3 weeks later, that character would change everything. But first, he had to hear the crying from the creek. But Tuesday started like any other day. By noon, Jamal would face a choice that would haunt him forever if he walked away. The afternoon rain had started during Jamal's shift at Rodriguez Auto Shop. Light at first, then heavier, drumming against the metal roof like angry fingers. "Storm's getting bad," Mr. Rodriguez called out, wiping grease from his hands. "You should head home early, kid. Don't want you walking in this mess." Jamal nodded gratefully. The weather forecast had called for flash flooding, and the last thing he needed was to get caught in a downpour without proper rain gear. He took his usual route home through Millbrook Park, a shortcut that saved 20 minutes and kept him off the busy main roads. The park sat between the wealthy Riverside estates and his neighborhood, a stretch of woods and walking trails that most people ignored. Today, the rain had turned those peaceful trails into something dangerous. Water rushed down the hillsides, carrying mud and debris toward the creek bed. What had been a gentle stream that morning was now a swollen, angry torrent of brown water. Jamal picked up his pace, pulling his thin jacket tighter against the cold. The temperature was dropping fast, and he could see his breath in the gray afternoon air. That's when he heard it. Crying. Faint at first, almost lost in the sound of rushing water. But definitely human. Definitely scared. Jamal stopped walking and listened. There it was again. A voice calling for help, coming from somewhere down by the creek. His first instinct was to run toward the sound. His second was to remember what Nana Ruth always said about minding his own business in this neighborhood. But as he stood there, frozen between caution and compassion, the crying got more desperate. "Help me!" the voice called out, clearer now. "Please, somebody help me!" It was a child. Jamal crashed through the wet underbrush, following the sound down the muddy slope toward the creek. Branches caught his jacket. Thorns scratched his arms, but he kept moving. When he finally saw her, his heart stopped. A little girl, maybe 12 years old, sat trapped in an electric wheelchair that had sunk axle deep in thick, sticky mud. The wheelchair was tilted at a dangerous angle, and brown creek water was rising around it, already reaching the seat cushion. The girl had cerebral palsy. Jamal could tell from the way she held her arms and the specialized support system built into her chair. She was soaked to the bone, shivering violently, her dark hair plastered to her face. But what struck Jamal most was the look in her eyes. Terror. Not just from being stuck, but something deeper. Something that made her keep glancing over her shoulder at the tree line as if expecting monsters to emerge. "Oh my God!" Jamal called out, sliding down the muddy bank. "Are you okay? How long have you been here?" The girl's head snapped toward him, and for a moment, relief flooded her face. Then something else took over, a kind of desperate fear that made no sense. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rushing water. "Please don't yell. They might hear us." Jamal stopped moving. Who might hear us? Instead of answering, the girl looked around frantically. "You have to go," she said. "If they find you here with me, they'll hurt you too." Nothing about this made sense. Jamal looked around the empty park, seeing nothing but trees and rain and rising water, no sign of anyone who might want to hurt anybody. But the girl's fear was real, and so was her danger. The wheelchair was sinking deeper into the mud with every passing minute. The electrical systems were sparking as water reached the battery compartment. The girl couldn't move her legs to help herself, and her upper body strength wasn't enough to pull free from the chair. Worse, the creek was rising fast. What had been ankle-deep water when Jamal arrived was now reaching his knees. In another 10 minutes, it would reach the girl's chest. "What's your name?" Jamal asked, trying to keep his voice calm as he waded closer. "Emma," she said, then immediately looked like she regretted giving even that much information. "Okay, Emma, I'm Jamal. I'm going to get you out of there, but I need you to trust me." Emma shook her head frantically. "You don't understand. I can't go back. I can't let them find me." "Who's looking for you?" Before Emma could answer, a distant sound made them both freeze. The low rumble of car engines coming from the direction of the main road. Emma's face went white. "They're coming," she whispered. "Oh God, they found me." Jamal heard the fear in her voice and made his choice. He didn't understand what was happening, didn't know who they were or why Emma was so terrified, but he knew a scared kid when he saw one, and he knew he couldn't walk away. "Emma," he said firmly, wading deeper into the muddy water. "I don't know what's going on, but I'm not leaving you here. We're going to figure this out together." The water reached his waist. The mud sucked at his boots with every step, and somewhere in the distance, car doors slammed shut. What Jamal did next would save Emma's life, but it would also put a target on his back from some very dangerous people. The water was rising fast, already at Jamal's waist and climbing toward Emma's chest. Her electric wheelchair, designed to weigh 300 pounds for stability, had become a death trap in the thick mud. "Emma, I need you to listen to me," Jamal said, forcing calm into his voice as he assessed the situation. "Can you move your arms?" She nodded, though her movements were limited by her condition. "Good. We're going to get you out of this chair." Emma's eyes widened. "I can't walk. Without the chair, I can't." "You don't need to walk. You just need to trust me." Jamal had learned problem-solving from 3 years at Rodriguez Auto Shop. Every broken car was a puzzle with a solution. This was just a different kind of machine in trouble. The wheelchair's electrical system was failing, sparking dangerously as water reached the battery compartment. First priority, disconnect the power source before someone got electrocuted. "Emma, where's the emergency battery release?" She pointed to a red switch near her left hand. "But if you turn that off, I lose all my support systems. We'll worry about that after we get you breathing air instead of creek water." Jamal clicked the switch. The wheelchair's humming stopped, along with the dangerous sparking. Now they were working against muscle and mud instead of electricity and drowning. The mud had the consistency of wet concrete, holding the wheelchair's wheels in a grip that seemed impossible to break. Jamal tried lifting from different angles, but the chair wouldn't budge. Water reached Emma's ribs. "Jamal," she said quietly, "maybe you should go get help. Call 911. No cell service down here, and by the time I get back—" He didn't finish the sentence. They both knew what would happen. That's when Jamal remembered his grandfather's military training stories. When you can't overpower the enemy, you outthink him. He pulled out his grandfather's old Swiss Army knife, the one tool he never left home without. Working quickly, he cut the wheelchair's safety straps and support padding, anything that was holding Emma to the chair. "What are you doing?" "Making you portable." Next, Jamal used fallen branches to create leverage points, jamming them under the wheelchair's frame. Not to lift the whole chair, that was impossible, but to tilt it just enough to break the mud's suction grip. The key breakthrough came when he remembered something from an auto shop. Sometimes you don't fight the problem, you change the problem. Instead of trying to pull Emma straight up, Jamal created a ramp system using larger branches and his work belt as rope. The goal wasn't to lift her out, it was to slide her out horizontally, then carry her to safety. "Emma, this might be uncomfortable, but I need you to help me slide you forward in the seat. Can you do that?" She nodded, gritting her teeth as they worked together. Her upper body was stronger than Jamal had expected, probably developed from years of compensating for her leg mobility issues. Inch by inch, they maneuvered her out of the chair's grip. The hardest part came when Jamal had to carry her through the rising water. Emma was small for 12, but dead weight is always heavier than it looks, and the muddy creek bed was treacherous underfoot. "Put your arms around my neck," Jamal instructed, positioning her for a piggyback carry. "And Emma, if I slip, don't let go. If you slip, we both go under. Then I guess I can't slip." Step by careful step, Jamal waded through chest-deep water toward higher ground. The current was stronger than he'd expected, threatening to knock them both downstream. His grandfather's dog tags pressed against his chest, reminding him of the inscription, "Courage under fire." Emma surprised him with her strength. Despite her condition, she held on tight and even helped by pointing out obstacles in the water that Jamal couldn't see. "Rock to your left," she'd whisper. "A deep spot is coming up." It took 47 minutes of exhausting progress, but finally Jamal felt solid ground under his feet. He carried Emma up the muddy bank and set her down gently on a flat area well above the floodline. Both of them were soaked, exhausted, and covered in mud, but alive. "You okay?" Jamal asked, wrapping his work jacket around Emma's shoulders. "Did I hurt you moving you like that?" Emma shook her head, tears mixing with the rain on her face. "You saved my life. Just glad you're safe." That's when Jamal got his first good look at Emma in a decent light. She was clearly from money. Her clothes were expensive, her dental work perfect, her wheelchair had been top-of-the-line equipment before it became a mud sculpture. But what struck him most were the thin rope burns around her wrists, barely visible under the mud and rain. "Emma," he said carefully, "how did you end up in that creek? Where are your parents?" Instead of answering, Emma looked around nervously. The sound of car engines had stopped, but her fear hadn't. "I need to tell you something," she whispered, "but you're not going to believe me." Before Jamal could respond, his phone buzzed with an emergency alert. He pulled it out, surprised to see he had one bar of signal now that they were higher up the slope. "Amber alert. Emma Davidson, 12, kidnapped Tuesday. Last seen Riverside Estates. If found, contact FBI immediately." Jamal stared at the screen, then at Emma, then back at the screen. "Emma Davidson," he read aloud. "Is that you?" Emma's face crumpled. "I told you that you wouldn't believe me. Try me. I wasn't lost in that creek, Jamal. I was hiding. 3 days ago, men in masks took me from my school. They kept me tied up in some warehouse, said they were going to ask my dad for $10 million. The rope burns suddenly made sense. "But I got away last night when they were changing guards. I've been trying to get home ever since, but my wheelchair got stuck and I was afraid to call for help because they said they had people watching for me everywhere." Jamal felt the world shift around him. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was something much bigger and much more dangerous. "Emma, we need to call the police right now." "No!" Emma grabbed his arm. "They said they have people inside the police. They said if I tried to get help, they'd know. They said they'd kill me." Jamal looked at this brave 12-year-old girl who had survived a kidnapping, escaped on her own, and spent 3 days hiding in the woods. She was scared, but she wasn't broken. "Okay," he said. "No police yet, but we can't stay here. If they're really looking for you, they'll find us eventually. And now they'll come after you too because you helped me." For the first time since jumping into the creek, Jamal felt real fear. Not fear for his safety, but fear for what this meant. He'd just saved a kidnapping victim, which meant he'd just interfered with some very dangerous people's plans. His simple act of kindness had just made him a target. When Emma finally trusted Jamal enough to tell him the truth, his world turned upside down. "They had me for 3 days," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "In some warehouse with no windows. They kept saying my dad would pay anything to get me back." Jamal listened in stunned silence as Emma pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her jacket pocket. Even soaked and muddy, he could make out the typed words, $10 million or your daughter dies, no police, no FBI, cash only. "They made me read this into a video camera," Emma said, her hands shaking, "to prove I was alive." The reality hit Jamal like a physical blow. This wasn't just a lost kid. This was a federal crime, and he'd just become a witness. "Emma, how did you get away?" "Tuesday night, one of the guards fell asleep. The other one went outside to smoke. I managed to cut my ropes with a piece of broken metal I'd been hiding." She held up her small hands, showing the fresh cuts across her palms. My wheelchair was right there, so I just ran. For 3 days? By yourself? Emma nodded. I was trying to get home, but I got lost in the woods. When my chair got stuck in that mud, I thought it was over. I thought they'd find me. Jamal's phone buzzed again. Another alert. FBI offering $50,000 reward for information leading to Emma Davidson's safe return. He showed Emma the screen. Your family's been looking for you. The whole city's been looking for you. Tears rolled down Emma's cheeks. I wanted to go home so bad, but I was scared they were watching. Scared they'd hurt my dad if I tried to call. We need to get you to safety. Can you remember your dad's phone number? Emma recited a number from memory. With shaking hands, Jamal dialed. The phone rang once. Hello? The voice was desperate, exhausted. Is this Robert Davidson? Yes, who is this? Do you have information about my daughter? Sir, this is Jamal Washington. I'm here with Emma. She's safe. The silence lasted so long that Jamal thought the call had dropped. Then he heard something that sounded like sobbing. Is she hurt? Is she okay? Where are you? She's okay, sir. Scared, but okay. We're in Millbrook Park, but she says it's not safe to stay here. Don't move. I'm sending security right now. Stay exactly where you are. Within 20 minutes, 3 black SUVs arrived at the park's entrance. Men in suits spread out through the area while a woman in FBI gear approached Jamal and Emma carefully. Emma Davidson? The agent asked gently. Emma nodded, suddenly looking very small and very young. Sweetie, I'm Agent Martinez. Your daddy's waiting for you at the hospital. Are you ready to go home? As the FBI wrapped Emma in a warm blanket and prepared to transport her, one of the agents turned to Jamal. Son, we're going to need a full statement from you, but first, he pulled out an envelope. Mr. Davidson wanted me to give you this. Jamal opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a handwritten note. Thank you for bringing my daughter home. There aren't words for what you've done for our family. Jamal stared at the check, then carefully folded it and handed it back to the agent. I can't take this. Son, this is the reward money. You earned it. I didn't help Emma for money. I helped her because it was right. Please tell Mr. Davidson I'm just glad she's safe. Agent Martinez looked stunned. Are you sure? This is life-changing money. I'm sure. As the SUVs prepared to leave, Emma called out from the back seat of one vehicle. Jamal! He walked over to her window. They're going to want to hurt you now, she said quietly. The men who took me, they don't like it when people mess up their plans. Emma pressed something small into his hand. A titanium keychain with the logo DD Enterprises and an inscription. Courage is the bridge between fear and action. My dad gave me this, but I think you need it more right now. As the convoy drove away, Jamal stood alone in the rain, holding the keychain and wondering what he'd gotten himself into. He had no idea that across town a very dangerous man named Vincent Moretti was watching news coverage of Emma's rescue and making plans for revenge. While Jamal went back to his normal life, across town, Emma was having a very different conversation. The private hospital room looked more like a luxury hotel suite. Emma sat in bed, laptop open, video calling her father. Dad, I found him, she said. The kind of person you always said existed, but we could never find. Robert Davidson's face filled the screen, eyes red from 3 sleepless days. Baby, you need to rest. We can talk later. No, listen. His name is Jamal Washington. He's 17, works 2 jobs for his grandmother. And Dad, he refused the $50,000. Robert leaned closer. He what? Give it back. Said he didn't help me for money. The FBI agent couldn't believe it. Emma's fingers moved across her keyboard, pulling up everything she could find about Jamal Washington. High school honor roll despite working 14-hour days, community center volunteer, auto shop apprentice with perfect attendance, 0 criminal record. Look at this. Emma turned the laptop toward the camera, showing a community newsletter photo. Jamal helping an elderly woman carry groceries, unaware someone was taking his picture. Mrs. Patterson says he does this every week. Never asked for anything. Robert was quiet for a moment. Emma, you've been through trauma. Maybe we should focus on... The kidnappers had detailed plans, Dad. Photos of me, my schedule, everything. This wasn't random. Robert's expression sharpened. What are you saying? They'll try again. Maybe not me, but someone. And when they do, we need people like Jamal ready to help. Emma pulled up news articles about 3 other kidnapping attempts in the city over the past year, all targeting wealthy families, all using similar methods. What if we could train people like Jamal, people who actually care about helping instead of collecting reward money? Robert stared at his daughter. 3 days ago, she'd been a victim. Now she was thinking like a strategist. That's a very big idea, Emma. I know. But you saw what one person could do when they actually cared. Imagine a whole network of people like that. As they spoke, neither noticed the news ticker running silently on the hospital TV. Vincent Moretti escapes federal custody during transport. But across town, Jamal was seeing that same headline on the community center's television. The news anchor's voice cut through the after-school noise. Moretti, leader of the kidnapping ring responsible for the Davidson case, overpowered guards during transfer to federal prison. He is considered extremely dangerous and likely seeking revenge against those who interfered with his operation. Jamal felt his blood turn cold. He was starting to realize that saving Emma might have been the easy part. 3 days later, when Jamal answered the doorbell, he never expected to see the girl from the mud standing there. But what she told him next would shatter everything he thought he knew. Thursday evening, Jamal was studying mechanical engineering at the kitchen table when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, he saw Emma in a standard wheelchair, accompanied by a woman in a business suit and a distinguished man he didn't recognize. "Nana Ruth," Jamal called softly. "We have visitors." When he opened the door, Emma smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. "Hi, Jamal. I'm Emma Davidson. I think you have something that belongs to my father." Jamal pulled the DD Enterprises keychain from his pocket. "This?" The distinguished man stepped forward. "Mr. Washington, I'm Robert Davidson. You saved my daughter's life, but more importantly, you showed me something I've been searching for across 6 states in 12 years. Nana Ruth appeared beside Jamal, taking in the expensive clothes and confident bearing of their visitors. "Please, come in. Sit down." In their small living room, Robert looked completely out of place on the worn couch, but he sat without hesitation. Emma's aide helped position her wheelchair, then stepped back respectfully. "Mr. Washington," Robert began, "what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but 3 days ago changed everything." Jamal sat across from them, confused. "I don't understand. 12 years ago, I testified against Vincent Moretti's father in a massive construction fraud case. My testimony sent Antonio Moretti to federal prison where he died 2 years later." Emma picked up the story. "Vincent swore revenge on our family. He's been planning this kidnapping for years, Jamal. This wasn't a random crime, it was personal." "But that's not the worst part," Robert continued. "Vincent escaped federal custody yesterday, and according to FBI intelligence, he's not just coming for Emma again." The room fell silent, except for the ticking of Nana Ruth's old clock. "He's coming for you too," Emma said quietly, "because you interfered with his revenge." Jamal felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. "So helping Emma made me a target for the rest of my life?" "Yes," Robert said simply, "and I can't undo that. But I can offer you and your grandmother a way to stay safe permanently." "Witness protection?" Nana Ruth asked, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "That's one option. New identities, new location, complete safety, but you'd have to leave everything behind. Forever." Jamal looked around their small apartment. The only home he'd ever known, the community center where he volunteered, the auto shop where he was learning his trade. "What's the other option?" Robert leaned forward. "You trust me with your life. Let me protect you the way I protect Emma. But that means becoming part of my family's world. Forever." "I don't understand what you're asking." Emma spoke up. "Dad's been looking for someone like you for years, Jamal. Someone who does the right thing without calculating the cost. For 12 years, Robert explained. I've been trying to find young people with real character to partner with. Not employees, partners. Emma's kidnapping taught me that all my money means nothing without people like you willing to act." Nana Ruth had been listening quietly. Now she spoke. "Mr. Davidson, what exactly are you proposing?" I run Davidson Industries, construction, urban development, community safety programs, but I need someone who understands the communities we're trying to help, someone who's lived it. Jamal shook his head. Sir, I stock groceries and change oil. I don't know anything about business. You know the most important thing, what these communities actually need. I can teach you business. No one can teach integrity. Emma pulled out a tablet showing detailed plans. Dad's been developing community safety programs for years, but they never worked because we didn't understand what people really needed. The screen showed blueprints for community centers, youth programs, emergency response systems, all designed with input from focus groups and consultants. Every program failed, Robert admitted, because we were designing from the outside in, instead of the inside out. What changed? Jamal asked. You did? Emma said. When you saved me, you didn't follow any protocol. You didn't wait for professionals. You just acted because someone needed help. Robert stood up, pacing to the small window. Jamal, Vincent Moretti isn't just dangerous because he's a criminal. He's dangerous because he represents everything wrong with how power works in this city. He preys on the vulnerable because he knows most people won't fight back. But you fought back, Emma added, without thinking about consequences or rewards. That's exactly the kind of person Dad's been looking for. Nana Ruth set down her teacup. What are you really asking my grandson to do? Robert turned from the window. I'm asking him to help me build something new, a foundation that actually protects children instead of just talking about it. Community safety programs run by people who actually understand the community. And in return, partnership equity in Davidson Foundation's new community safety initiative, full college tuition, starting salary that takes care of both of you, and most importantly, protection from Vincent Moretti and anyone else who might target you. Jamal felt overwhelmed. This is all happening too fast. Emma leaned forward. Jamal, Vincent is still out there. Other kids will be targeted. We can't stop every criminal, but we can make sure every community has someone like you. Someone willing to jump in the water when others drive past, Robert added. Nana Ruth looked at Jamal with pride and concern. Baby, this is your choice, but remember what your grandfather always said. What's that? Robert asked. When someone needs help, you don't calculate the cost. You just help. The question was, would helping this time save lives or destroy his own? What Robert offered next wasn't just about money or safety. It was about turning Jamal's nightmare into other children's salvation. Robert pulled out a leather portfolio and set it on the coffee table. Jamal, I'm offering you the executive director position of the Davidson Foundation's new child safety initiative. Starting salary, $75,000, full college tuition, plus equity participation in safety technology development. Jamal stared at the number written on the contract. $75,000 was more money than his family had ever seen in their entire lives combined. This has to be a mistake, he said quietly. No mistake. But let me explain what this really means. Robert opened the portfolio to reveal detailed blueprints, financial projections, and organizational charts that looked like something from a major corporation. We're launching a $50 million program to prevent child abductions, not just in wealthy neighborhoods, everywhere, starting with the communities that need it most. Emma took over the presentation, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. Traditional child safety programs fail because they're designed by people who've never been in danger. We want to change that. She showed Jamal the tablet screen. Community early warning systems, GPS safety devices for every child who wants one, training ordinary people in rescue and safety protocols. Why me? Jamal asked. There have to be people with actual experience in this kind of work. Robert's expression grew serious. 3 days ago, professionals failed my daughter. FBI, police, private security, they all failed. You know who didn't fail? A 17-year-old who works at an auto shop. Business schools teach strategy, Emma added. You learned courage under fire. That's not something you can get from a textbook. Nana Ruth had been listening carefully. Mr. Davidson, this sounds wonderful, but what does executive director actually mean for my grandson? Robert smiled. It means Jamal gets final approval authority on every program decision. It means when we design a safety system for a neighborhood, he decides if it's good enough. It means no corporate executive can override his judgment about what communities need. The scope was staggering. Jamal looked through page after page of plans, technology development, revolutionary GPS safety devices that couldn't be removed or disabled, emergency communication systems that worked even when cell towers failed, panic buttons disguised as everyday jewelry or clothing, community programs, self-defense training for children and parents, neighborhood watch systems with professional-grade equipment, safe house networks for children in immediate danger, first responder training, teaching civilians advanced rescue techniques, creating rapid response teams that could mobilize faster than police, coordinating with law enforcement without depending on them, legislative advocacy, lobbying for stronger child protection laws, funding for community safety programs, legal protection for civilians who intervene in emergencies. This is incredible, Jamal said, but I don't understand the business side. How do you make money helping people? We don't, Robert replied. This isn't a business, it's a foundation. The money comes from Davidson Industries' profits and donations from other families who've been through what we went through. Emma pulled up another screen. Dad, show him the test case. Robert flipped to a section labeled Operation Safe Haven. The page showed detailed plans for Jamal's own neighborhood. We want to start here, Robert explained. Millbrook Community Safety Network. Every child gets a GPS device. Every adult gets emergency response training. Every block gets a trained civilian rapid response coordinator. Jamal studied the plans. They weren't just throwing money at the problem. They were systematically addressing every vulnerability he'd seen growing up in his neighborhood. How do you make sure this helps poor communities instead of just rich ones? Jamal asked. 70% of resources go to low-income areas first, Robert said. It's written into the foundation charter. You'd help us identify which communities need help most. Emma leaned forward. Jamal, you saved one girl by accident. Imagine if you could save hundreds on purpose. Nana Ruth asked the practical question. What about Vincent Moretti? How do you keep my grandson safe while he's doing this work? Robert's expression grew serious. Full security detail, safe housing in a gated community, emergency response protocols, and most importantly, Vincent becomes a lot less dangerous when we have trained civilians watching every neighborhood. But there's something else, Emma added. If we do this right, Jamal won't just be safer. Every kid in the city will be safer. Robert pulled out the final document. Timeline, FBI protection ends in 72 hours. You need to decide, witness protection and disappear or partnership and fight back. Jamal looked at the contract again. The numbers seemed impossible. The responsibility seemed overwhelming, but the mission felt right. What happens if I say no? You and your grandmother get new identities and relocate somewhere Vincent can never find you. You'd be completely safe, but you'd also be completely gone. And if I say yes? Emma answered, you become the most protected teenager in America. And more importantly, you become the person who makes sure no other child goes through what I went through. Robert stood up. Jamal, I can't guarantee your safety completely, but I can guarantee that if you stay, your life will have meaning beyond what you ever imagined. Nana Ruth looked at her grandson with tears in her eyes. Baby, your grandfather didn't survive Vietnam so you could run from bullies. This family stands and fights. Jamal thought about his college fund with $847, about walking 45 minutes to work every day, about watching other kids plan futures he couldn't afford. Then he thought about Emma, terrified and trapped in that creek. If I do this, he said slowly, I want one condition. Robert raised an eyebrow. What's that? When we're successful, when we actually make kids safer, we expand the program. Not just this city, everywhere. Emma grinned. Dad, I told you he was the right person. 6 months later, when the FBI finally captured Vincent Moretti, they found something that proved Jamal's decision had saved more lives than anyone imagined. The transformation began immediately. Week 1. Jamal and Nana Ruth moved into a secure townhouse in Riverside Commons, complete with panic rooms and 24/7 security monitoring. But Jamal insisted on keeping his job at Rodriguez Auto Shop 2 days a week. I'm not forgetting where I came from, he told Robert. Month 1. Operation Safe Haven launched in 3 pilot neighborhoods. The first community meetings were tense. Residents didn't trust another rich man's program promising to help. Then Jamal stood up to speak. My name is Jamal Washington. 6 months ago, I was stocking groceries and sleeping on my grandmother's couch. I'm here because someone tried to hurt a little girl and I couldn't walk away. Now we're going to make sure you don't have to walk away either. The room changed. These weren't corporate executives talking down to them. This was one of their own, speaking their language. Month 2. The first GPS safety devices were distributed. Sleek, waterproof bracelets that looked like sports equipment. Kids loved them. Parents felt relief for the first time in years. Month 3. The system worked. 8-year-old Marcus Brooks went missing from Roosevelt Elementary. Traditional Amber Alert protocols would have taken precious minutes to activate. Instead, the community network responded in 30 seconds. Jamal coordinated from the command center, while Emma tracked Marcus's GPS signal. Trained civilian responders, neighbors who'd completed the safety course, formed search grids. Local business owners locked down their areas and checked security cameras. Marcus was found within 12 minutes, safe but scared, hiding in an abandoned building after getting lost walking home. No trauma, no violence, just a swift professional response that prevented a tragedy. The story made national news. Teen Heroes Safety Network saves another child. Month 4. Expansion to 15 communities citywide. The technology was evolving too. Panic buttons hidden in school ID cards, emergency communication apps that worked without cell service, safe house networks where children could find immediate help. Month 5. Vincent Moretti made his fatal mistake. He tried to kidnap 10-year-old Sarah Martinez from Davidson Elementary. Within 90 seconds of Sarah's panic button activation, 12 trained civilians surrounded the school parking lot. Moretti was captured trying to force Sarah into a van. In his apartment, the FBI found detailed plans for revenge against Jamal, Emma, and 6 other children from wealthy families, maps of schools, schedules, photographs taken with telephoto lenses. He was planning a war, Agent Martinez told reporters. But the community was ready. Month 6, the numbers spoke for themselves. 847 children enrolled in the GPS safety program, 23 successful rescues using civilian response networks, 156 families trained in emergency protocols, 89% reduction in attempted child abductions in pilot areas. But the real victory was cultural. Crime rates dropped 45% in program neighborhoods, not just kidnapping, all crime. When communities organize to protect their children, they protect everything else too. Emma, now 13, had become the program's youth spokesperson. Her wheelchair was equipped with the latest safety technology she'd helped design. She spoke at school assemblies, teaching other kids how to stay safe while staying brave. "Don't be scared," she'd tell them. "Be prepared." Nana Ruth led the Grandmother Network, 200 women who coordinated neighborhood watch activities and provided emergency child care during crises. Her arthritis was better thanks to excellent health care through the foundation. Her pride was boundless. "My grandson saved one little girl," she'd tell anyone who listened. "Now he's saving thousands." The technology attracted international attention. Delegations from 12 countries came to study the Davidson model. Orders poured in for the GPS devices. Revenue funded expansion to 47 states. Jamal was completing his engineering degree while running the foundation, but he still spent Saturdays at Rodriguez Auto Shop. "Keeps me grounded," he explained to confused reporters. Robert Davidson told CNN, "We didn't just save my daughter. We discovered that ordinary people will do extraordinary things when you give them the tools and trust them to act." The program's greatest validation came from an unexpected source. Other criminal organizations stopped targeting children in Davidson Foundation service areas. The risk had become too high, the response too swift. Vincent Moretti was sentenced to life without parole. At his sentencing, he glared at Jamal in the gallery. "You ruined everything," he snarled. Jamal stood up. "No, sir. I fixed everything." The community center where Jamal once tutored kids now housed the Davidson Foundation's national training headquarters. A bronze plaque by the entrance read, "Courage is the bridge between fear and action." But Jamal's favorite measurement wasn't in the annual reports or media coverage. It was the sound of children playing safely in neighborhoods that used to be silent after dark. 2 years later, when another emergency struck another child, everyone knew exactly what would happen next. The alert came at 3:47 p.m. Child missing, Maria Santos, age 8, last seen Lincoln Elementary playground. Within 4 minutes, the Davidson Foundation's network activated citywide. Emma, now 15, coordinated from the command center, surrounded by screens showing GPS locations and security feeds. Her cerebral palsy hadn't slowed her down. It had taught her systematic problem-solving. "Maria's GPS shows movement north on 5th Street, Emma announced into her headset. "Teams Charlie and Delta converge on that location." Jamal, now 19 and studying mechanical engineering, led the field response. He wore his grandfather's dog tags, now supplemented with state-of-the-art communication equipment. Nana Ruth, 71 but energized by purpose, managed family support protocols. "Maria's mother is en route," she reported. "Family liaison team ready." The search lasted 12 minutes. Maria was found safe in an abandoned warehouse, where a confused individual had taken her while looking for his own missing granddaughter. No violence, no trauma, just swift intervention preventing tragedy. Among the responders was Devin Williams, 17, a former at-risk youth now serving as community safety coordinator. Like Jamal, he'd learned that heroism meant refusing to walk away when someone needed help. "Got her," Devin radioed calmly. "Maria's safe. The suspect needs medical attention, not arrest." The efficiency was remarkable, but no longer surprising. The Davidson model operated in 200 cities across 12 countries. Child abduction rates plummeted wherever the program launched. For Jamal, success wasn't measured in statistics. It was in moments like this, watching Emma lead crisis response with the same courage she'd shown in that muddy creek, seeing Nana Ruth coordinate complex operations with decades of community wisdom, knowing children like Maria went home safe because ordinary people chose to do extraordinary things. Robert Davidson joined them as the all-clear was announced. "Another successful response," he said matter-of-factly. This was simply how things worked now. "What's next?" Jamal asked, reviewing incident reports for improvements. Emma displayed expansion plans for Southeast Asia. "International deployment starts next month. We're teaching the world that every community can protect its children." As they planned the next phase, Jamal thought about that muddy creek where everything started. A simple choice to help someone had grown into a global movement. The memorial bench at the creek bore this inscription: "Courage begins when one person refuses to walk away." But Jamal knew the real truth was simpler. Courage begins when you stop calculating the cost of doing what's right. The next emergency alert was already coming through. Another child, another chance to prove that good people still existed, and they were ready. Every day, children face danger while adults look away. But Jamal proved that one person's courage can build an army of protection. You don't need to rescue someone from kidnappers to be a hero. You just need to act when others won't, to care when it's inconvenient, to protect when it's dangerous. Right now, in your community, there's a child who needs someone to notice, a neighbor who needs help, a moment waiting for someone brave enough to step forward. Jamal saw a scared 12-year-old in mud and didn't calculate the risk. He just helped. That choice saved thousands of lives. Your moment is coming. Will you be ready? Share this story if you believe ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Subscribe for more proof that courage is contagious. And tell us in the comments, when did you choose to help when others walked away? More real heroes, real courage, real hope. Because sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one who refuses to use their power for themselves.